Not a lot of things about the Browns right now are being described as underrated, right? Maybe the D-line.
Even that, I mean, okay, that's a good one because PFF had them at 7th overall.
Yeah.
And I was like, what, 7th? It's supposed to be the best part of this team. Are they not accounting for Mason Graham? What's going on here?
But two guys who used to work at PFF, now part of the 33rd team and the Check the Mic podcast, Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo, talked about one part of the Browns that might be criminally underrated.
I think this is a crazy grading. I think this is utterly ridiculous. In fact, again, starting point, Myles Garrett demanded a trade. Instead of trading one of the best players in the NFL, they've extended him and got him locked into a new contract. You can debate how they got there, but they ended up with the quarterback I would have taken at number 2. Like I would have taken Shedeur Sanders just because I think they need a way out of that. They got him in the 5th round. So they got the same guy and they're paying him like a fraction of the money they would be paying him if they got him at number 2. And they got an extra roll of the dice, like a bonus lottery ticket with Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round as well, and trade down and pick up the extra 1st round pick next year. And as much as Travis Hunter is special, he's unique, somebody that hasn't come along for decades, I still think the smart move is to pick up the 1st round pick for next year. If for no other reason, then you need the quarterback, not the guy that plays corner or wide receiver.
So what I do think is a very interesting context to this is there were points at the very beginning of the offseason where we thought this was going to be a disastrous offseason for the Browns. It didn't turn out to be that. So at least in that way alone, it's underrated.
First off, very brave of Sam to admit that he wanted the Browns to take him at number 2 overall and then watching him go to the 5th round, because there are not many people out there that are willing to put that take back out there.
Well, see, because they said the opposite 2 weeks previously, so they flip-flopped enough that they can say they said anything.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you were one of the few, you and Sam together.
It's very brave of him because it's just not, I didn't know it was a real brothers-in-arms handshake emoji agreement moment between Sam and myself. I just feel like so many people have run from any idea that they ever even wanted Shedeur Sanders at number 2. So even like bring that back out there, tip of the cap to you. Jeter, respect, tip of the cap to you right there.
That's actually, that's a great point. How many people have, since the draft, just been like, yeah, no, we knew he was going to be a 5th round pick. It's like, you didn't know bleep. However, do you think that the Browns offseason is underrated?
So they haven't, outside of the draft, I would love to know why they think it's underrated. Like the draft was great, and there's a lot of pieces of it that could potentially be great is what I should say. I liked a lot of this draft. I really did. Even from the running back side of things, there's a lot to enjoy. But it's not like they spent a lot of money in a lot of places. It's not as if we added a lot of, we didn't add anything as far as the offensive line is concerned outside of Tevin Jenkins. We didn't do anything with the wide receivers.
You did add Malik Collins. He's your big ticket this offseason, which is not typically a big ticket, but that's your biggest move so far.
Yeah, and we pointed that out the other day when we were reading the whole recap of the Browns in general a couple of days ago that ESPN had out there, where it was, $17 million in total? And that was the big ticket move. That was the biggest actual money-making change that you did. It's just not a lot. It's not a lot that was put towards this team.
So I think because if the Browns had intended to win, Deshaun has a good year last year, but somehow you end up with a top 5 pick, whatever. If the Browns intended to win this next year, then they were going to be really hard-pressed to make those kind of moves, but they could have done it. They could have kicked more money down the road. They could have kicked more stuff down, kicked the can down the road on a few more contracts, maybe had a few more extensions kind of lined up. But because I think they looked at this and said, what if we just have a year where we just kind of see where it goes, which is very different than the 3 previous off seasons, maybe 5 or 6 previous off seasons. There weren't a lot of things they could do. So something like Myles and navigating the trade request, yes, absolutely. That's a feather in your cap if you think the best thing for them to do was to re-sign Myles and keep him in the groove there. Because they don't have a lot of big-ticket trades or free agent, practically none, which, again, they shouldn't have. They should not have moved more cap around.
I don't disagree with it, by the way. They should have. I would have done exactly what they did in many, many respects to this offseason.
So, in a way, it's a safe offseason. And, again, there are no safe offseasons because you can screw up the safe moves. You can screw up the draft. But, yeah, I didn't – listen, at the start of this, I didn't want the Browns throwing good money after bad, which is continuing to chase this idea of we're a playoff team, we're a championship team. I looked at this as the last Russ Wilson year in Denver, where it was, you're going to play here. We're going to try and figure this out. but we're not beholden to you, and we're just going to try and get through a couple bad contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, that is what they're setting this up to. So I think, like, I they didn't swim against the current, which is smart because they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out what part of it then is considered an underrated offseason. Is it just
it's the Myles thing for him?
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Just be retaining the guy that PFF has as the best defensive player in the sport the past 3 seasons, according to their grading. That was enough to make the offseason to win.
So yes, and
okay.
How do you feel about that?
No, to me, yes, if you want to call it a win, I don't know that I make it then underrated and sneaky good. But yeah, losing Myles would have been a completely different scenario for a lot of people.
I think the only thing that they could have done that was earth-shaking one way or another this offseason was trade Myles. And I think it would have taken a lot more stones to trade Myles than call him on his bleep. But you did do. I mean, listen, I don't know. You could even have said that there would have been the only thing that would have been bad for Myles is if you had made a bad trade for Myles. But like, you called him on his bleep. You knew Myles well enough that with just subtle pressure of free agency coming up, he'd fold like a cheap accordion. And that's exactly what he did. I think, like, listen, I got a lot of things to say about the Browns. I would have traded Myles. I was a little over Myles. And I saw what Myles was saying, by the way. I saw his point of view, which is I want to win. I sympathize with that. I think he had earned that at this point. And I also thought you could get an earth-shaking kind of trade for Myles. It could end up being the best of both worlds. That said, you knew him better than anyone, and you called him on his you-know-what. Granted, you gave him $40 million a year, but yeah, that's what he's worth.
It's what he's worth.
So, like, I do think, like, I'm loath to give Andrew Berry credit because we can look at his free agent moves. Not a lot have worked out really well. His trades have been, by and large, pretty darn good, but his drafting has not been nearly good enough. Not a disastrous GM, but not a great GM. Somewhere in the middle and probably towards the bottom. I think we got to give him more credit for this offseason.
So what's tough about that, though, is in response to the Myles Garrett side of things, it does kind of feel like you're crediting the arsonist for putting out the fire. You know, like if he had done his job better, Myles Garrett wouldn't have been going on Radio Row trying to demand trades and trying to request everything and find his way out of it. So in a weird way, yes, he did a great job in calling out his bluff and getting to a spot where he could just pay Myles Garrett a bunch of money. But it does feel like you're crediting the arsonist for putting out the fire.
Well, the thing is, I don't really think it was ever about that for Myles. Because I think it was proven that when he signed for the money he signed and he just gave in. And we can talk about how he didn't have leverage. He did have leverage. Trey Hendrickson is still holding out. Shamar Stewart is still holding out. He's a draft pick. So, like, Myles didn't even test it. It was very apparent that once Myles saw $40 million a year, Myles thought, well, you know what, losing in Cleveland isn't so bad. So, like, I don't even know that I originally agreed that Andrew's the arsonist. I think it is like a Scooby-Doo situation where you rip off the Andrew mask and the real arsonist to the whole saga that is Myles' trade demand is Myles himself.
No, I'm looking more at the idea that he's the constructor of the team, and the team itself is why Myles wanted out. That's why he'd be the arsonist in this scenario.
I think that's just been proven. I think that's been negated by the fact that Myles just took the money and shut up.
Yeah, we've disagreed on that before. We don't have to rehash the Myles Garrett thing right now. But the point is, at least for me, is it overrated? Is it underrated? How do you view the Browns offseason? If keeping Myles is the only thing you do, and because he's that impactful of a player, you want to tell me that's made it a sneaky underrated offseason? I'm all right with that.
We're just talking about Sam Monson from Check the Mic and formerly of PFF saying the Browns have an underrated offseason. There's just so few things to actually grade them off of. Like, the Browns really are in a weird situation where I don't know that we can grade them off wins and losses this year because I think they're going to be few and far between. And you kind of can say the same thing. Like, is it an underrated offseason that you just didn't screw it up?
Or, yeah, I mean, I guess so. How much can I put your offseason on what your draft is? But it feels like that was minus the Myles part, the whole entire everything.
Like, okay, so
if I liked your draft, shouldn't I have liked your offseason?
So the three big things are what? Myles Garrett, the draft, and your quarterback room. And yeah. I don't think you could have made a better quarterback room without putting too much money into a team that I don't know the difference between Kirk Cousins and Joe Flacco's worth that much,
or Daniel Jones and Kenny Pickett necessarily.
I actually might like Daniel Jones more.
No,
than
I knew
Kenny
you would.
Pickett.
That's why I wanted to bring him into the mix here with just a little bit.
But now that I have Kenny Pickett,
He's probably going to start in Indy, by the way.
And they're going to inexplicably win 10 games. He's going to get another $140 million. And then they're going to be right where the Giants are. Shane Steichen, we put on a float. And you can see this coming from a mile away.
One day we can do a study about how Anthony Richardson played 13 college games and was just a combine All-American and then got taken 4th overall.
We call that the Mike Mamula. Anybody, you remember him?
Mike Mamula?
Yeah, so he was like a mid-90s first pick overall. But the whole point was he was okay in college, but man, can you see him work out? There was just like underlaid things there of like, I think these guys just thought he was cute.
I mean, seriously, that's what it is with Anthony Richardson. Like, he broke combine records and was just like a vertical. He was an athletic freak is what he was, but he played 13 college games and that was enough. Think about how exhaustive that process was for Shedeur Sanders and the hoops he had to jump through and everything he had to go through and the diagnosis and the analysis and everything. And Anthony Richardson, 13 college games, completed like 50% in college too, like just wildly inaccurate. Hence why he completed 47% in the NFL so far in his career, and got taken 4th overall.
So I walked to the store today before the show, as seen by the fact I've been grazing for the last 2 hours.
Is that what happens to you, by the way? Because I've noticed when you do walks before the shows, you do end up grazing.
Not normally. I'm sorry. Yes, I do graze. I'm just fat. But normally I've
been grazing lately.
I get walk down to like Cleveland Clothing Store and back just to get some extra steps in.
It's a good walk.
But today, your boy was just feeling a little peckish because that's what happens when you're heavy and you haven't had anything. So I felt a little peckish, but there was a guy and he was just jacked as all get out. Like he looked like a middle linebacker in the NFL. And the shorts were short. I could tell everything about this fella.
Mm-hmm.
He looked incredibly impressive until you watch him walk.
Even there too, huh?
Yeah, definitely there. Good job, sir. Good for you.
Well, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to get it.
But then you watched him walk, and it's like, this is the least athletic, most jacked person I've ever seen. Like maybe it's the weight of things holding him down, but like he just
that's too bad.
Yes, it's a character from San Andreas from Grand Theft Auto.
It is one of the funniest.
Walk like
one of the funniest things in life is when you played on softball teams. I'm sure some of those men's leagues and such, and you have these guys that just look jacked, and then when they try to swing a bat, just looks just so awful.
Or
really athletic people, athletic-looking people, not looking athletic is very funny to me.
So even funnier. I played on one men's adult softball league. Never again. No, because I look ridiculous running full speed at this point, I'm still in my late 20s. But I was awful because I hadn't swung a bat in a decade. And it was overall very traumatizing. We had this kid who, when he was at bat, he swung like Pujols. It was a beautiful swing. And then when he started running, it was the least manly athletic run ever. And I was on his team. He's the only good ball player we had. But I always rooted for him to get, like, not a home run because he could do the home run trot and look super athletic.
Yeah.
But if, man, he had to hustle out like a double, I would sit there.
He'd run like a duck or what?
I don't even know how to say it. It was like Elaine dancing in Seinfeld because middle-aged people, the only thing we have is Seinfeld references. But yeah, it was like that, but the version of running. And I would just sit there and none of my teammates would even notice it. And because they were just impressed that he just hit the ball 300 feet and got a triple. And I would just sit there with my face covered and just giggle the entirety of the time. And we'd get blown out by like 20 runs.
If I was that man's therapist, we would start with the deep-rooted issues of he became a great baseball player and had a Pujols-esque swing to overcompensate for the fact that he runs like Elaine dancing.
Also did have a very big truck. Very, very big truck. And he wasn't a farmer. I'm just saying, there's a lot of things. Maybe the antithesis of our friend on the street.
Your awareness of other guys' packages it's on another level.
It's called awareness. All right.
It's
Madden 99.
Just not things I ever pay attention to.
Yet.
Yeah.
In fairness, this guy today, he turned the corner, and it turned the corner 2 minutes earlier.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
he was playing catch.
Yeah. So that's not on me.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
I'd have to be looking for Superman to avoid the damn thing. All right.
Thanks. Great visual. I'm thinking of just a guy just turning the corner. Oh, I'm right there. I'm right there. So he's got to talk to it to make sure that it knows he didn't leave it.
So
some people have a dog. Other people have
some got that dog in them.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
So, of those three things,
Yeah, what they think. Wait, what did your story with the big guy have did it have somewhere else we were going out of that or
no. They were just two very athletic people who did not do things in an athletic manner.
Okay, because
it's like, what's the point of looking like that if then you look like Mighty Mouse when you run?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Richardson still looks good when he runs, I would imagine.
He does.
He just couldn't play football.
He does.
He just can't play quarterback. And Daniel Jones is going to have that opportunity because Anthony Richards can't. I can't get over that. I can't get over the whole idea that he just got taken 4th overall because he just looked awesome in the combine.
But isn't that like the draft, the great flaw of the draft? If you look like a football player, you're going to be overdrafted.
Well, and then remember the quote from Chris Ballard? It was, "I won't be able to sleep at night if he becomes awesome elsewhere." It's like that doesn't mean you have to take him 4th overall.
In fairness, surviving that big of a busted quarterback and not getting fired is one of the 5. It's right up there with the Deshaun Watson trade of you made the worst trade in NFL history and didn't get fired. That's some level of a Hall of Fame achievement.
Irsay was incredibly loyal to him. Now that Jim Irsay is passed, though, I don't know if that's going to maintain.
Oh, we
don't know. We don't know how the new set of Irsay daughters are.
I'm going to imagine they're a little more even keel than dad.
Well, they're definitely more even keel. But Irsay was letting all these guys just kind of hang out for a while. Like, I mean, it just kind of, that was just part of his DNA. He was very loyal in a weird way. He was very loyal to Chris Ballard in particular.
So is there anything we can actually hammer the Browns on for their offseason?
Probably not. If you actually wanted them to win games, you tell them to spend more money, right? But it doesn't seem like they're not really in the business of winning 9, 10, 11 games. Like, I'd be mad if they were trying to tell us that they were a 9, 10, 11 win team and they just didn't do anything with their wide receiver position. I'd be pretty pissed.
So here becomes the problem.
But I can't be mad about it.
But here's the problem. Then doesn't Andrew Berry deserve credit?
Credit for what?
For having a good offseason. Because again, we can look at the other body of the work, but we're trying to evaluate him and Kevin in real time.
If the draft, and you shouldn't judge a draft this soon, but we judge it quicker than we ever have these days. If the pieces of the draft looks good, we're going to look back and say, "Good job, Andrew Berry."
Well, but there's nothing that's going to make the Jacksonville trade look worse, right? Unless you get like the 20th pick and Travis Hunter.
I'm talking more about the players. I'm talking more about like if Judkins looks good or if Mason Graham looks good. If Mason Graham doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, then yes, that will make the Jacksonville trade look worse.
Shouldn't the trade down be the bigger thing than even how Mason works?
No,
like if Mason stinks, but you get the number 1 pick, I think you still win the exchange.
We still have to judge on the idea that at number 5 overall, you went with Mason Graham. We have to judge you off of your selective ability of that. And then even within that, the 2 picks you had, just because you had picks, you still have to hit on those picks.
No, I do agree with the general sentiment you're making. I think we're a really interesting spot where I think you can make the case like Sam Monson did that Andrew Berry had a good offseason, and then you're going to go out there and they might go 3-14, and then you're not going to get credit for it.
Yes, but even if he had a good offseason in so much inactivity, essentially, it has not come anywhere close to erasing the previous 5 years of his job. And so, like, if he's trying to crack away at that, that's where he's got to do it with actually getting the Mason Grahams, the Judkins, the Fannons of the world. That's where he's got to start getting those things right. And then he starts chipping away at what has been 5 years of just not being a very good GM.